All right, everybody, get ready because
Yeah.
we are diving deep into the ADDIE model today.
Yeah,
You know, it sounds a little bit like a snooze fest, right? Like something you'd find in like a really old textbook.
right.
But you know what? It's actually the backbone of so many successful training programs, online courses, all that good stuff.
It's true.
And who would have thought that something developed for the U.S. Army, like way back in the 70s,
Right.
would still be such a big deal in the world of learning today?
Well, and I think what's so fascinating is how it's gone from, those kind of rigid, army drills to like, how do we design really engaging online courses today?
Exactly.
And what I think is really cool about it is it's not just for like big organizations or anything, whether you're a teacher prepping a lesson plan or you're like, somebody who's a freelancer and you want to build like a little online workshop, like ADI can really level up your teaching game.
It can. It can. Okay, so for those of us who are like acronyms, I don't do acronyms.
Right.
What does ADDIE actually stand for? Break it down.
Okay. AD stands for Analysis, Design, Development, Implementation, and Evaluation.
Got it.
And it sounds very linear, right? Like step by step. But here's the thing. It's actually a cycle.
A cycle.
Yes.
So it's more this continuous loop than this straight line.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
That's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, it is.
I like that. Okay, so let's say I'm like a brand new instructional designer, like fresh out of the gate, and I'm given this task. I had to create this awesome, training program for, let's just say, a tech startup.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay.
Where do I even begin?
Yeah.
Like, help me out here.
Well, that's where the analysis phase comes in, right? So before you even like open up PowerPoint or start like, building anything, you really want to understand like who are your learners, what do they know, what do they need to know to be successful? And that's really like that foundational like analysis piece, right? We also have to think about things like accessibility needs. What's the actual environment going to be like? Is this going to be in person? Is this going to be online? Or are we talking like VR simulations? Like, where are we going with this?
So it's not just about throwing together some PowerPoint slides and calling it a day.
No, definitely not. Once you've kind of got a handle on like the who and the why, then you move into that design phase. And that's where you're really going to define those crystal clear learning objectives. So like by the end of this training, people will be able to blank. Like that's the design phase. How are we going to get them there? What's the most engaging way to deliver this content? And you can start to like, sketch it out almost like a learner's journey. And the research paper you sent actually mentions like storyboards and prototypes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, that's like
Almost like movie making.
that, like storyboarding the whole experience
Exactly.
before you actually even build it.
Yes.
This is where I think I would get lost,
Yeah.
like in the weeds,
Right.
like just dreaming up all the cool, like interactive elements and like making it look really sleek.
Yes, and that's the development phase. That's where you get to take those ideas and actually make them real. But you're right.
Okay.
It's not just about, making it look fancy. It's
Right. It's got to work too.
Right.
Like imagine having like this awesome training program,
Right.
but then the online platform is like clunky and like,
Exactly.
my eyes are just glazed over.
And that's why that development phase is so crucial, because it's really about choosing the right tools for the job, right? Whether that's, software that's actually user-friendly, multimedia elements that are engaging, learning materials that are accessible.
Right.
It's really about making that learning experience smooth and enjoyable.
Okay, so we've analyzed, we've designed, we've developed this awesome training program.
Right.
Now what? Do we just like unleash it upon the world?
Yeah, that's implementation. That's where you actually get to deliver the training. But remember, it's not just about like standing up and presenting information or, just like, here's the stuff. It's really about creating that environment where people feel supported in their learning.
Yeah.
Where they feel comfortable asking questions, where they feel like they can engage with the material. And the research you sent actually talks about how important it is to provide support to both learners and instructors, which I thought was really interesting
Ooh, that's a good point.
during that implementation stage.
Yeah, because even if you have like the most well-designed program in the world, if
Right.
you don't have that support, it's not
It's not going to land, right?
talking to land. Exactly.
Yeah.
So true. Okay, so then what's next?
And that brings us to like the final phase, which is evaluation. But here's the thing. It's not just this one-time thing that happens at the very end. And remember how we talked about how ADDIE is a cycle?
Yeah.
Evaluation is actually baked into every stage, which gives you a chance to like continuously learn and improve.
So it's like instead of waiting till the end of like a project and realizing, oh, we went totally off course.
Right.
This is like getting that feedback along the way and saying, okay, how are we doing? Are we on the right track?
Exactly. And we call that formative evaluation.
Okay.
Where you're kind of checking in along the way, you're getting feedback from people, seeing what's resonating, what's not, and you can make adjustments as you go.
Got it.
And then, of course, you have like summative evaluation, which happens at the end, which is really about like the impact, right? Did the training actually achieve what we wanted it to achieve? Did learners actually, walk away with the knowledge, the skills, whatever it was that we were aiming for?
Okay, so I'm starting to see like the power of this whole ADDIE thing.
Yeah.
Like
It's a process.
it's a process, but like any good framework,
Right.
it must have like its pros and its cons.
Of course. Yeah.
Right? Like what are some of the big wins and the potential like pitfalls, the things to watch out for?
Yeah, let's start with the good stuff.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest strengths of ADDIE is just its clarity and structure, right? Like it gives you that roadmap,
Okay.
especially when you have multiple people working on developing something.
Right, like a whole team.
Yes. And because you're going through this process, it's inherently very thorough, right? So you're less likely to like miss crucial details that could impact how effective your training is going to be.
So kind of like that classic saying,
What's that?
measure twice, cut once.
Yes.
Except this is like analyze thoroughly, design effectively.
Exactly.
Less carpentry, more brain power.
Right. But here's the cool thing. Even though it has that structure, it's also very flexible. So you can adapt it to different contexts, to different learning styles, to different content. Like, remember how we were talking about like VR simulations?
Right.
ADDIE can handle that.
Wow.
And because you have that evaluation piece built in, you're always learning. You're always improving, right? It's that cycle at work.
I love that you build in that continuous improvement loop, like right from the start.
Yes.
But you did say pitfalls.
Yes.
So don't leave me hanging.
Okay, so all that analyzing, all that planning, it takes time.
Okay.
It can be a very time-consuming process, which may not be ideal if you need to roll something out quickly.
Right. So it's speed is key.
Right. If you're on a time crunch, ADDIE might not be the right fit.
Got it. Got it. What else? What other like downsides should we be aware of?
So some people argue that, that linear structure, while it's helpful for planning,
Right.
can actually feel a little rigid in practice.
Okay.
Especially in fields that change very rapidly.
Right.
You might need to be able to adjust more on the fly than the model traditionally allows for. And then, of course, there's the risk of like overthinking it.
Oh, yeah.
Like getting so bogged down in the analysis phase that you never actually move forward.
Paralysis by analysis.
Yes, I've been there.
I've been there. Okay, so it sounds like ADDIE, while awesome, has a lot to offer, but it's not like this magic bullet.
Secret.
It's like you really need to weigh the strengths, the weaknesses, see what's right for your situation, and make it work for you.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned that ADDIE kind of fits into this bigger world of like instructional design.
Right.
And like, help me unpack this for a second. What is the difference between instructional design and like instructional systems design? Like, do we need another acronym breakdown?
You don't need an acronym, thankfully.
Okay.
But think of instructional design or ID as like the chef creating a delicious meal, right?
Right.
They're focused on the ingredients, the flavors, the presentation.
Right.
Instructional systems design, or ISD, is more like the restaurant manager, who's ensuring that the entire dining experience is top-notch.
Got it.
From the ambiance to the service to the delicious food, of course.
Yes. I love that analogy.
So ISD is really about the big picture, especially when we're talking about, larger scale training programs.
So where does our friend AD fit into this like delicious analogy?
Right.
Is that like the recipe book for our master chefs and our restaurant managers?
That's a great way to put it. So ADDIE is often categorized as an ISD model because of its systematic approach. But, what I think is interesting is, and the source material actually kind of argues this, is that it's more flexible than people give it credit for.
Yeah.
It can be a very adaptable tool.
So it's like that trusty recipe that you have.
Yes.
That you've like written down on a card and then you're like, ooh, but I'm going to add this and I'm going to do this a little different. And like,
Right.
Those are the scribbles in the margins.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. Okay. But speaking of like different approaches, we have to talk about rapid prototyping.
Yes.
Because that sounds like the like speed demon
Yes, it is,
of like training program development methodologies.
as the name would imply.
Right. So how does that compare to this more like methodical ADDIE approach?
So rapid prototyping is all about speed and iteration. So you're essentially creating a very, very basic prototype of your training, getting it out there very quickly, and then refining it based on the feedback that you get. So it's like dipping your toe in the water before you do a cannonball into the pool.
Okay, so it's like test the waters, iterate quickly.
Yes.
Which in some environments where like you need to move fast,
That's very valuable.
that's super valuable.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you would be sacrificing some of that like thoroughness that you would get
Right.
with that ADDIE model.
Exactly. That's the trade-off. So rapid prototyping really prioritizes speed and flexibility over in-depth analysis and planning.
So which one reigns supreme? Give us the final verdict.
I hate to disappoint,
Okay.
but there's no one right answer.
Ugh.
It really depends on, your specific needs, the resources you have available, and ultimately, like, what is the goal of the training you're trying to create?
Got it.
Sometimes you need that in-depth analysis and planning that ADDIE offers.
Right.
And other times, maybe rapid prototyping is the way to go. It just depends.
No easy answers.
No easy answers. That's what makes it interesting, right?
That's what makes it interesting. But okay, so bringing it back to ADDIE,
Yes.
we've explored the phases, we've explored like all the advantages, all the things to watch out for, but this model has been around for decades.
I know. It's crazy.
It's like how has it stood the test of time when the world of like, work and learning has changed so rapidly, especially like recently.
Right.
It's like this model itself has almost gone through like a learning cycle,
Mm.
right, of constantly adapting and evolving.
Totally. And think about it. Like, this model was born in a world of like chalkboards and overhead projectors,
Yeah.
and here it is, still relevant in a world of, online learning, mobile devices. Who knows what's next? And I think that really speaks to like its flexibility and the fact that those core principles
Right.
still hold true.
So it's not about like sticking to this like rigid formula. It's
Mhm.
about understanding the principles and like almost like, making it work for whatever like the modern learner looks like.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to view it as a guide, right?
Right.
Not a set of rules
Okay.
like etched in stone.
Got it.
Like, we can borrow from other approaches, we can incorporate new technologies, we can,
Right.
constantly be experimenting to see what works.
That's what I love about this whole field of like learning and development is that it is always evolving,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like there's always something new.
Always something new.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Mm.
Which kind of leads me to, you said there was a question that
Yes.
that like really got you thinking when you were going through all this research.
Yes.
So hit me with it. What's the question?
So we've talked about how adaptable ADI is, right?
Right.
But imagine how technologies like AI
Oh, yeah.
and virtual reality could completely revolutionize it.
Ooh. Yeah.
Right? Like, we're talking about personalized learning experiences that are tailored to your exact needs,
Nice.
your learning style, immersive simulations that almost make learning feel like a video game.
Okay, now we're talking like
Right.
sign me up.
Right. Taking those best parts of ADI, right? That structure, the learner-centric approach, the emphasis on evaluation, but like amplifying it with the power of these like incredible technologies.
Yeah, I can already picture it now, like, AI analyzing like a learner's progress like in real time.
Yes.
And then personalizing the content
Yes.
and the pacing to like
Yeah.
their needs. And then, like you said, virtual reality. Oh my goodness, like talk about an immersive learning experience.
Right.
Imagine learning history like by actually stepping back in time or like mastering a new language by like virtually interacting with native speakers. Like
It's mind-blowing when you really start to think about
it is.
the possibilities.
It is. And it
Hmm.
makes you realize that like this model, which some people might think is like so rigid and like
I know.
structured,
Right?
is actually like this gateway to like incredible innovation
Exactly.
when it comes to
So
learning.
it's like the launch pad, and then these technologies are like
Yes.
the rockets.
Yes. I love it. I love it.
Taking us to like, limitless learning possibilities.
The moon. Okay, I love that analogy. And the best part is like this isn't just some like futuristic fantasy. Like
Right.
we are already seeing glimpses of this
We are.
with like, adaptive learning platforms
Yeah.
and like you said, VR training simulations.
Totally.
It's already happening, which is really, really cool. And it's so exciting to think that something that was like, developed decades ago is still shaping the way that we think about the future of learning.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. Well, on that note, for anyone listening who has ever felt like lost in the world of instructional design,
Yes.
Remember, ADI is your friend.
Yes, it's your compass.
It is your compass. There you go. It will guide you. It will get you where you need to go. And even better, remember, it's a flexible framework, you know?
Right.
It's not like these rigid rules like don't be afraid to experiment, try new things, make it your own.
Make it your own.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about, it's that learner-centric approach. It's understanding your audience and creating something that's actually going to be engaging and helpful for them.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
There you go.
There you go. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the fascinating world of the ADDIE model, everybody.
Well, yes.
We've journeyed through its phases, explored its strengths, its weaknesses, and I think we even got a little glimpse of its very, very bright future.
From Army drills to AI-powered learning. Oh. I know, right? What a world. What a world. A huge thank you to all of you for joining us on this adventure. And until next time, keep those brains engaged and those learning journeys exciting. Because whether you are, a seasoned pro or just starting out, there's always something new to discover in this awesome world of learning.